So, some guys just like in playing, they have the touch. David Russell said, people that just small little details, a small detail in our nail, you know, details in their ear for feedback. Steve's a very good guitar player, knows what he's doing with that. As you can tell from the conversation we just heard, unbridled enthusiasm and joy in what he does. It's a real honor to welcome him here. And actually, I asked my dear friend and his dear friend Sergio to do the formal introduction today. So Sergio, talk a little bit about Steve Connor, what you find in his instruments, why you and your brother, who could play any guitar in the world, decided to play this fabulous guitar maker's instruments.
Well, there's a personal thing going there. Because, I think when I knew or met Steve back at Tom Humphrey's home, that was much before actually I met Steve. I can't remember the date, but it was early 2000 some. And but I haven't tried his guitar until I moved to San Francisco actually to teach. And over there, I was visiting Dave Tannenbaum when he had one. And then I tried that guitar. And that was even before I tried I got to know the instrument you had of his. So it was an early instrument. And I just felt in love because it was like going from my instrument that I used to play a Humphrey. It was going from the instrument I had to a sort of upgrade. So I felt really comfortable with the instrument because it had the same kind of idea behind with the elevated fingerboard. And it was very easy to adapt. So after I left Tannenbaum's home, I think I sent an email to him. He gave me Steve's email, so I sent him an email. Then we start communication. Finally, we got a pair of his guitars. With a year now, we got guitars. And actually, I bought two of his guitars. I had two of them. Just in case something bad happens to one, I have a spare one. So Steve is a very nice person. Was always trying to accommodate my needs, like in terms of sound of what I expected to have. He would send me guitars to try and kept sending guitars that I could actually trade back until I got one that I was really pleased with. I have had one that I'm currently playing. I still play this one. I just was watching the year. This is from 2014. So I've been playing this for 6 years, the same instrument. And I think now we're talking with Steve, maybe it's time to try a new one. That's it. We'll see. So it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to listen to Steve talk.
That's just great. Well, we're going to start with a short video here of a rather unknown duo playing Connor guitars. This is the duo Assad playing Payaso by Gismanchi.
Beautiful. Oh my God. Such a joy to hear you play, Sergio.
Thank you. That was a very early instrument, actually. It was before the one I currently have. And they look so new. They're like, it's very white, the top. This is interesting about these guitars. They look like this after a while.
Yeah.
They look beautiful, actually. The quality has changed. Yeah.
Well, that was just terrific. Incidentally, that is one of Sergio's amazing arrangements. That's originally a piano piece, and how you do that, Sergio's.
Come on.
You're too humble. But let's turn this over. As you said, the day belongs to you, Steve. So enchant us with your knowledge and share your workshop. And at the end of the presentation he's going to have with us, there's going to be an opportunity for we're going to hear some more people play on YouTube, but we're going to have questions and answers. You can write your questions and answers in chat if you'd like. And I also put some links there for you towards the series that we've already had. You can go back and look at the videos of people that have been here. You could also look at the virtual concert series that we did last spring, which has got some amazing playing, including on some of Steve's instruments there. And without further ado, I'm going to say welcome, Steve, again, and we look forward to hearing what you have to offer us today.
Well, thank you, Tom. First of all, I just wanted to say, Tom, you are amazing. I have the utmost respect and appreciation for what you're doing for the guitar community in Tucson. The caliber of education that you're offering is just so top-notch. I'm just so impressed with you. I mean, I work with departments all over the place, but there's something really magical what you're doing in Tucson. When I visited, I just got to experience not only amazing playing, that you're a magnet for just these top-notch players, but the feeling of just love and openness there, that you've really created a community that is extraordinary. And I see why all these young players from all over the world, come to study with you. You provide access to, the brilliant teachers, composers, players such as Sergio and David, and the list goes on and on. And I think it's so smart that you adapted quickly to offer this type of online lecture series, because that's turning an obstacle into an opportunity. Now these will be cataloged so people could, visit these in the future and look back at them. And I'm really honored to be part of this group, because great builders, Antonius Mueller, Dennis Tolt, amazing musicians like David and Sergio, and now looking forward to Berta coming up. and Marco Tamayo, and just it's so cool what you're doing. And I've got a workshop tour that we could put on in a couple minutes. And then I thought that might make the most sense to show that first, so that then you could have more questions in mind after seeing that. So maybe Anna could roll that in a moment, and I could just show you. It's about half an hour, and I just approached it like a virtual tour, as if someone was just right in the workshop. And so I hope you enjoy it. And then after that, we could go into more of the philosophy of the workshop, and just the inner workings of the state of mind behind some of these innovations and inspirations that are going on. But I think first we should just do the tour. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my workshop. My name is Stephan Connor. I build classical guitars here on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, a little over an hour from Boston, not too far from New York, and therefore easy to get to from Europe. And I love to have visitors, and I hope eventually you can all visit and check out my workshop. But in the meantime, I'd love to give you a virtual tour, show you what's going on here, give you a tour of the workshop, insight into my process, into this latest series of guitars that I've been making, and then have a guest artist perform on one of the guitars. So first, I thought I'd give just a little background about how I got into guitar making. Basically, I fell in love with the music of Bach, played by Andres Segovia, on old records in my parents' house that I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey. And I played piano, but then I found my mom's old guitar in the closet one day. And I picked it up and I thought, oh, I love the guitar. You can just, I don't know, you can just pick it up. You can take it outside. It's cool. And so when I went through the record collection, so there's some old guy with a guitar. Let's put this on. And it was Segovia playing Bach. And I just was transfixed. I couldn't believe it. I didn't understand the music. I didn't know what was going on, but it just took me away. I loved it. So when I went to college, there was a guitar teacher there. So I said, well, I'd like to learn to play the music of J.S. Bach the way Segovia does. And he said, well, his fellow over said, oh boy, well, let's get to work. So so I came to classical guitar quite late, in college, but I fell in love with it. I went to Paris to study with Tanya Chugneau, a fantastic teacher there. And she really taught me how to listen. The most important skill as a guitar maker as well is you really need to listen. The colors, the tone, the shape of the note, and the more you can train your ear, not only as a musician, but as a builder, the more you can sculpt the sound. And you think about, say, phrasings. Do you play this chord here? Do you play it here? Where do you play it? Oh, I want to have a little vibrato. So don't play it here. You'd have your melody on the G string, which is the weak spot of the guitar. Or do you like the openness? So the piece that Segovia would try guitars out with was the Villalobos. And where do you play that one? Do you play it? But Julian Bream, another amazing record that was transformative for me. Julian Bream, rest in peace, but thank you for your music. This record is incredible. I love this record. And I think Julian Bream would play it like this. Maybe. And what I love about Julian Bream fingerings is they aren't the easiest fingerings, right? That's so much harder to play. But it's so expressive. And I go for something similar in my guitars. Don't take the easy way of doing things. Do things they might be twice as hard, but is it better? Is it more expressive? Is it more musical? So when I look at the guitar, I look at every little detail of it and think, how can you improve it just a tiny bit? Just that little bit, 0.5%. And then it adds up. Everything, the slight radius in the fingerboard, just slight, it's this custom radius, not as much as a steel string or electric, just a little bit. It reduces the fatigue while barring. Triangulating the frets just to get them really nicely shaped, you get better intonation, you get a purer tone. This guitar is Evo fretwire, by the way, which is a little bit harder. So if people use carbon strings, then this, it wouldn't wear down as quickly. The curvature on the back, really, I built a machine to help replicate this. So I came up with the most ergonomic neck. After trying out all these guitars, thought this is what players will really like, and now I can replicate it. Just consider everything: the balance, the thickness of the finish of the top, the way the saddle is rounded. Just become obsessed with every detail, and fall in love with the instrument. This is the guitar that it brings people beauty. It helps them heal. It represents cultures all over the globe. Any sort of music can be played in it, from Chinese to Chilean to it's so versatile. And being guitar maker is a thrill that right now there are people around the globe, playing my instruments, which is such a magical feeling. I've built about 360 instruments in this workshop, and I was in Boston beforehand. And that's where I sort of put myself through a type of graduate school as a maker. I learned some of the principles of guitar making in Saskatchewan, Canada, at a guitar making school there, a 2-month program, really intense, harder than anything I learned in college, because I just loved it and was so fascinated by it, that it combines art, it combines science, you get to work with your hands. And growing up, my parents were professors. I grew up to the sound of a typewriter, not like in the workshop, but when I got my hands on wood and started working it, I was sort of amazed. I was like, these hands want to do this. Seeing your hands make this work, take rough pieces of wood, shape it into a guitar, and then all of a sudden, you're exploring the universe of sound through this thing that you've just put together. It's sort of a magical process, and I fell in love with it. And I think anybody watching this should try it. Now there's guitar making schools around. If you've got an interest, where there's a will, there's a way. Building your own instrument, it's just mind-blowing. It's amazing. If it's not your thing, working with your hands, then you can experience the sort of the journey of building an instrument through a workshop like what I do here, where I build these portrait guitars, where I get to know the specific player and I work closely with them. I get to know their background, their favorite artist, music, places in nature, and then I shape the instrument. I treat it sort of like a canvas to express not only the sound they want, but also the aesthetic. For example, this one's for Elliot Fisk. So one of his special places is the Alhambra in Granada, Spain. So I used an arabesque pattern, and I've been to the Alhambra. I love it as well, and so that was a natural fit and fun to take these motifs from the Alhambra. So then when he looks at it, it's like, the Alhambra. There's a little bit of that in there. And I found that with having a really beautiful guitar, I had a Manuel Velasquez guitar in college, you'll play it differently if it's beautiful and you have a connection to it. You'll respect it more. You'll say, this is this treasure, this extension of my soul. And so what I try to do is show people the entire process, how the guitar, the materials are selected, how they're shaped, how it's modified and customized to become an extension of them. So I'll be showing you a couple of the portrait guitars in the works, and then you'll get to hear one later. So let me show you around the workshop a bit. This is the finishing area where I do my alchemy, basically. French polish is one of the best finishes for guitars, in that it doesn't inhibit the vibrations of the soundboard. It's thin, it's natural, it's easy to repair, and acoustically it's beautiful. It lets the instrument flex in the way it wants to. It's made from secretions of the lac beetle, dissolved in pure alcohol. Do not drink this. And then it's applied with a pad, sometimes with an oil. The French tend to use mineral oil, Spanish olive oil, Americans sometimes walnut oil, paraffin oil. All these things add up to the sort of the glimmer of the guitar and the sound of it. So here's an instrument that this is actually a double top guitar. I build single top, double top, 7, 8, 10 strings, steel string, electric. I love to build just about anything, but classical is really, that's, you know, my focus. So for Elliot, he asked for his guitar maximum tone colors. He said, I want a guitar with as many tone colors as possible. Most people these days say, I want volume, I want plenty of volume. But with Elliot, he can get volume from these guitars quite easily. So let's focus on tone colors. And I said, oh, thank you. That's exactly what because I love the old recordings of Bream and Segovia and whatnot, where it's like exploring tone colors. So, but I'm also building double tops, which is a really easy way to get a lot of volume and evenness of tone. Here's one with Brazilian rosewood, and I'm pairing these guitars with an innovation that was pioneered by Torres, but now I'm trying to revisit it and try to put my own contribution into it by making it removable. It's a Tornavos, and having it removable means you can easily adjust it and you can get your hand into the guitar for repairs or gluing on the bridge. And it affects the resonance of the guitar. So here, it's around an A. It lowers the resonance significantly. And that helps because I you know, helped pioneer this idea of a closable sound portal on the side of the guitar. And that affects the resonance, and there are magnets on the inside of this. You can close it. So you can hear that having a portal raises the Helmholtz of the instrument. Then I can lower it back down with the Tornavos, which this hasn't been fit yet. And then say if someone plays bass in a quartet, where they just want like a lower sound, which has been popular these days, a sort of more dark sound. This can affect the tone, but what's nice is it's versatile, that you can just change it. It has a sort of friendlier tone, I think, when it's a higher pitched instrument. And so for the finishing, I try all sorts of stuff. Stradivarius, why were those violins so magical? Maybe there was a treatment put on the soundboards that affected the speed of sound through the soundboard. Maybe it was this treatment called water glass, which is potassium silicate, which would probably affect the rate at which vibrations would travel through the soundboard. So I've been experimenting with it, and I tried it on Elliot's, and I wanted a fast response, and anything I can do for fast response. And I'm trying these things out, and it's fun. There's just endless possibilities to explore. And from history, you learn from traditional masters of the past, and then you're like, how can I try to contribute something or explore and just experiment? And it's endless, and that's why I continue to be in love with this. After over 400 instruments, I'm just more passionate than ever to try other things out and to then eventually write them down and you know, someday teach. But right now, I'm just really enjoying working directly with players. And let me show you how I brace the soundboards. So here we are, ready to brace the soundboard. I've got a number of different bracing patterns that I've sort of worked with over the years to create my own sort of sound. And it's amazing, at different patterns, you can still arrive at a similar type of tone if you understand the sort of principles of how a guitar works, the flexibility of the edges, and this sort of equation of the soundboard and the bracing system. I'm using spruce and cedar in these bracing patterns, and this is two 5-fan systems interlocking. The interlocking evens out the tone of the guitar, gives you more power, but you're still getting the complexity of a traditional sound. And I'm putting the cedar towards the edges to get more flexibility, to lower that Helmholtz, to give that good push and bass. I'll be using hide glue throughout the guitar. It's so important the adhesive you use. Hide glue and fish glue are my aces. For the bridge, I use 315 strength hide glue. For the bracing and other parts of the guitar, 192 strength hide glue. It's mixed in water, heated up to about 135 degrees. So with this temperature gauge, you make sure everything's good. Yep, it's over 130. Don't want it over 145 or so. Then I preheat the brace, actually on my Macintosh computer. If you just put it on top of it, it heats it up a little bit, around 100 degrees. It's really nice. So now let's glue. I'll use this Go-Bar deck, which is a Japanese system of bracing. Simple, it's elegant. These days there's vacuum pressing and all these more modern techniques, but then you've got a compressor around. And for me, guitar making is this sort of spiritual trance-like adventure. And I don't want to hear a compressor going, bark, 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 bark. I love every part of the process to be beautiful. So I'll paint on the hide glue. Then use the clamping pressure of sticks, birch dowels. And then I'll do that for the rest of the braces. So after the top is braced, you profile the braces, and that's where you start to sculpt the sound. You really can shape sound. A brace that's shaped like this will be, it'll be clearer, it'll be brighter, which is good for, say, Bach. If you want a sweeter, rounder sound, you lower the brace, so you actually can sculpt the sound that the guitar will make through how you sculpt the braces. So for that, I use Japanese chisels, and you get in the zone for that. It's a beautiful process, and you can use principles like biomimicry, where you look at bird bones are so efficient. Bird and fish bones, you only have material where you need it, and that's what we try to do with soundboard braces as well. Give it the support where you need it, but cut away anything that's not needed, and then you'll get a more free and open sounding instrument. Here's how I bend the sides. Traditionally, a hot chimney pipe is how you could bend the sides. A guitar, all you need, or any instrument, you just need hot metal. But and how I learned was a blowtorch going through a hot piece of metal, and you'd hand bend the sides, and that's an amazing experience to go through that. But when you're building 18 to 20 guitars a year, and you really want to guarantee symmetry and spend more of your time doing other things, most people build a side bender. So this has light bulbs, and on the inside, high power light bulbs, and a heat blanket, and it guarantees symmetry. You just turn it on, spray down your side, which is thickness to the correct thickness, not too thick, because it could shatter if it's over like 2.7. It won't make it for a tight waist curve. And that's why some instruments, like actually the old Strad guitars, they have that gentle sort of waist. It's probably easier to bend. More curvaceous ones are a little harder, or maybe it's more comfortable over the knee. Anyway, it's a puzzle. It's a mystery as you look at these instruments and you wonder, how are they building these workshops? What's their journal? And a neat thing of these days is now there's videos where people can, I don't know, just sort of document their thinking. So this is how I bend the sides. I just spray the rosewood in this case, open up the machine, slide it in, close it down, and let it cool off, and then the side is set. So it's been quite a journey building guitars. I started off listening to records and being, this is amazing. And now I'm building for some of the people who, and have got to meet these people that I'd listened to their recordings. Elliot Fisk, his CD, Latin American Guitar Music, EMI, amazing. My dad got it for me. And I was like, God, this playing is just so beautiful. Then eventually I get to meet him. Things work out, fortunately. Amazing to work with him, learn so much. And then my guitars are brought to this world stage. And then I meet Angel Romero. Romero, wow. Get to go visit him, see his collection, learn, see guitars. Hey, look at this 1986 Rodriguez. You know, I made it a little shallower. I asked him to make it shallower, quicker response. So in the Aranjuez, those fast passages, boom, 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 really fast and articulate. And I noticed, well, Elliot, he wants what Segovia asked for, orchestra in a guitar. Give me the timpani, give me it all. You know, I want a really deep, everything in the orchestra. For Angel is much more, I want it fast and precise for that repertoire that he specializes in. So I noticed, wow, people want different types of guitars depending on what their voice is, what their personality is as a musician. And that's how these sort of portrait guitars started. So I need to build, to satisfy people completely, I need to build different instruments. And I started with the sound and then the neck. Say, Angel wants a thicker neck than most people. And then I said, well, I got to customize. Why not customize the Rosette as well? Why don't we just look at every part of the guitar and make sure from the weight of it, the feel of the neck, the frets, the sound, the response, the speed of the response. It's something Angel would talk about as well. He did archery as a child. And you learn accuracy and this sort of response with the string. How quick does the string return? And on a guitar, fast players, they like a disciplined string. So when I was visiting on Hill and got to hang out with Pepe Romero as well, he said, how did you come into guitar making? Through the woodworking side or the music side? And first of all, I was like, I can't believe I'm hanging out with the Romeros. It's like just mind blowing. He said, definitely the music side. That's how I came to it. Some people look at guitar making as one of the pinnacle, perhaps the pinnacle of woodworking. I think of it more of just like it's a vehicle to explore music with. But a big influence actually for me was cooking. That had a huge effect because when I graduated from this guitar making school, I was in Boston and I didn't have much money. I didn't have some background in woodworking or connections. I was working in a restaurant and then building guitars in my bedroom for a while. If I build wherever I could, I just really wanted to do it. But in cooking, the chef would say, never let anything out of the kitchen. That isn't excellent. That's how you have the good reputation of a restaurant, is you just high quality, just it can't leave. It doesn't leave the kitchen. And good quality ingredients. If you want to have a fish dish that really commands a good price and people really, want the best, you need to know a fishmonger and go get the best fish, the best ingredients. So with guitars, I thought the same thing. You need the best quality materials if you're going to try to make some of the best guitars. And hand selecting them is the way to go. So I went to Switzerland to find out where these soundboards come from. This is the lunar harvested spruce that I really like from Switzerland. They do a really good job with the seasoning, the harvesting. It's FSC. It's all responsibly sourced. And when you go there, you can check the flexibility. And for me, I don't want a really too stiff a top because I use interlocking systems for some of my bracing patterns. So I was able to go through and say, sometimes the AA, AAA actually, that fits my equation better as long as it doesn't have run out. And I like a little bit of bear claw in it, just a little bit. And not too big bear claw figures, sort of small bear claw figure, but I feel like that adds complexity to the tone. And again, back to food, like a nice wine, it's a little complex. It keeps you guessing. You have one sip and then you're like, wow, I got to try that again. And I want that with the guitar. I want somebody to play it and be like, God, I just want to explore more on this guitar. And so by getting the best quality materials, it's really important. And it also is sort of spiritually satisfying when you go and you see from everything. You go in the forest and you see this is being responsibly harvested. And then I give it another life, like George Nakashima said, with the soul of the tree, that you're giving wood another sort of life, and you respect it, you pay homage to it, and you bring it into a whole nother life. So cedar versus spruce, I love them both. I go back and forth between my favorite. I think spruce might have more tone colors and that sort of noble old school character, and I do love Bach on spruce, but cedar has a lot of his unhill, punch, give me punch. If somebody wants punch, I'd probably go with cedar. And this is Western red cedar. And the seasoning's really important as well. It's not just the ingredient, it's what you do with it. And like in cooking, don't make any mistakes. If you make a mistake, it's just the dish wouldn't be just right. And same with the guitar, you just need to be in the zone and never have there be a weak spot. If you burn your garlic early in a dish, it doesn't matter what sort of chicken or tuna or anything you put in, it's just not going to be right. So you got to get every part, the adhesives, the materials, and the humidity level of everything seasoned right. So cedar, spruce, redwood for steel string guitars, those are the top options. For the back and sides, so many things can work, and there's sort of different flavors in a way. Here's one for an Italian guitarist that over the through messaging, we can still connect for these portrait guitars. I love it when people come in person, but right now we can just do stuff over the internet, and I get to know their videos and pictures and aesthetically what they want as well. So this is Zero Coat, which will be a pleasure to build with. It's so pretty. So that's for Benedetta. Flame maple. I mean, the traditional tone wood for the violin family. It works beautifully guitars as well, but I would use double sides for that. For maple guitars, always do double sides. Koa, oh boy. So the chiefs in Hawaii would ride, they were the ones allowed to ride the Koa surfboards. This has religious significance. There's a lot of cultures really view trees and wood as sort of spiritual and holy parts of their world. And I really like that philosophy. You got to respect a tree. And there's in Japan, there's something that's sort of called tree or forest bathing, where you go into a beautiful forest and you just absorb the beauty of the forest. And I love to do that as well. You find a grove and you're just like, it's just beautiful. It's amazing. Like the trees have a presence, a sort of wisdom, these older trees. And I love buying salvage woods. Things are, you've got to be as responsible as we can, and also donate to environmental organizations that are protecting lands as well. This is, Koa gives a colorful tone. It's pretty clear like maple, but it's a playful fun. It's a happy wood. Cypress, traditional wood for flamenco guitars. Pretty light, gives an immediate response, maybe is not as much sustained as the holy grail of tone woods. Brazilian rosewood, which has low internal damping. It's got a lot of sustain. It rings like a bell. It's also just so beautiful. It's like a landscape painting in each set. So with these portrait guitars, I go through all the options and just sort of show the person my frame of mind and find out what they like the sound, and we collaborate. So it's really, we're creating a work of art, a musical work of art that they get their hand in, their part, and I grow as a maker through the process as well. So right now I'm building one for Rosie Bennett, a fantastic English guitar. So she came and visited and was able to try out a bunch of instruments, and I just strung up one for Scott Tennant, and she really liked the dark, deep sound of it. So I found a similar soundboard, and actually I found some of the darker colored cedar tops actually have a darker sound. Some things are very simple with guitar making, and some things are mysterious. So pick this out for her, because I thought that would be the right voice for her guitar. Then you bend the sides on the side bender machine I showed you. And I wanted put something beautiful in there. Why not? You know, when you look down, why not just have every sense be pleased when you have a guitar? Your ears are pleased, the feel of it, the look of it, the smell of it, just everything. Just have it be an indulgence to treat yourself, so that you're then more inspired to create beauty for your audience. So the top, the sides, the back, how you thickness the back, it's important, how you brace it. And you always thinking about the relationship of the parts. Same with cooking, you know, how do these things add up? And when art is like, when the sum of the parts goes beyond, I feel like that's when you get a guitar. A good guitar is when you put together these pieces, but then if it's done in a harmony and love is put into the process, then something magical can happen. You've got an instrument that just sort of, it sings, and it's got a life of its own. And it also teaches the player how to explore the music as well. It works with them, but it'll suggest things. Play that passage cleanly. Listen to the separation of voices. Let's really explore those separate voices, and love the process. This guitar is for Marina Tomei, a guitarist from Italy who's living in Mexico City. And it's so much fun. I get to meet these people, get to know these people from England, Italy, Chile, Vietnam. And it's, as a guitar maker, it's so fascinating that you just meet all these different people and you have this love in common. Building for Marina has been a really fun portrait guitar because she loves the Southwestern sort of vibe from Mexico. So she, helped me grow as an artist to try new things that I wouldn't have tried before. She said, this is the sort of art I like. I like the Southwestern style, these sort of brighter colors and geometric patterns found in Native American art. So we would trade pictures, we'd sketch designs, she'd show sketches. And then next thing we know, we've created, a one-of-a-kind work of art that I never would have come up with this independently. But with her influence and her style, it was so much fun. We're doing long distance, pen pal sort of art collaboration. And then I said, wow, having some sides that has that sort of those color tones and some of the beauty of the Southwest. This is actually a left-handed guitar. So we thought, here's another pattern that's found in Native American arts and the rugs, textiles, and it gives shadows, Marina noticed, like a bird. If the portal is just right, you see these beautiful patterns on the inside. So this guitar will also have the head veneer and a headstock that we've designed together this will be cut in a shape that sort of echoes the rosette and the sound portal. So sort of like with interior decorating, you want to have a bunch of things work together. Same with the guitar. You don't just do like all these separate, everything's got to be in harmony. So the headstock, the rosette, sound portal, the color tone and the bridge, they all should work in harmony. So next we'll check out the latest portrait guitar, which I'm in love with. So here we are at the helm. This is where I do 90% of the work here. And what I try to achieve is a flow state, this beautiful state where you're just watching your hands and life is just sort of like a dream. I put on a music appropriate to the step. And sometimes people come and visit and there's some psychedelic Tame Impala music going and I'm like, well, it helps put me in the zone, you know? So I try to pay attention to what can bring you into the flow state. Food is important, having the right amount of either sugars or food, carbohydrates, the right music, but the flow state it's a beautiful thing and it helps me do work that I hope is that next level. This guitar is for Kaylee, a guitarist from Rhode Island, who's been such a pleasure to work with. She grew up by the ocean in Rhode Island and she loves the water. And when we were discussing the portrait guitar, and I said, let's just reconsider every part of it. It's a canvas. We'll get the sound you want, but also let's let it reflect your spirit. I said, well, could we have it look sort of like the ocean? I said, well, if we did quilted maple and then put that color that you like over it, you can give some of that effect. And then you've really, it's becoming a work of art, a musical work of art. So for the rosette, I used silver wire that was bent. This symbolizes everything in the guitar. I'm always thinking symbolism. What does it mean? How does it function? But also, can you put meaning behind it? So these are a wave motif. This is a double crescent moon. And again, echoing that sort of color and theme throughout the instrument. And it's so much fun making these. They're all different in every detail. I'll make my own, a special heel cap just for her. I'll work in a sort of sunset figure into the wood. And today we'll get to hear this one. A common question I get from people in the workshop is, how do you make the rosette? So say for Kaylee's here, I used silver wire. For some, I use mother of pearl or abalone, but usually it's wooden mosaic. So you get a pattern on graph paper, you make a log by squeezing together these sort of planks of wood, and then you cut off small tiles. And these tiles will be fit into a channel. And they're tapered. And then you just put them in. It's actually not that hard. It's really fun. And so it's really, I think it's a blast for the people I work with to help design the rosette and just be in that process. So the tools for the workshop, I love hand tools, especially Japanese hand tools. The metalsmithing techniques from samurai sword making, it still continues in the form of chisel making. And when you get a Japanese chisel that's been sharpened just right, it's like a Vorpal sword. It's a pleasure to use. It's just amazing. So for carving braces, I'll use these Japanese chisels that are just a total pleasure to use. For the planes, this is made in Maine. Some great tools are made in America. This is right in Maine. And this is how I'll carve the back braces. And I think it's important to not free shape with some router table. You want to hear the bracing stock. You want to hear how the guitar is responding. These things will help put you in the flow state. It's meditative. It's a music from the process of making. And again, ideally you want every step to be beautiful in a way, because that's the idea here. We're going to try to radiate beauty into the world through these instruments. We create this sort of tool for the musician to radiate beauty. So I'll try to think good thoughts while I'm building, think of the person, put love into the process. And the other tools, you have to make some. Say for notching braces, I'll take 2 saw blades, put a spacer in between, and then for making a notched cut without using a table saw or something, you just use a hand tool. So you make tools as well as a guitar maker. A lot of the tools are pretty basic. You could just buy this at any store, but it's where there's a will, there's a way. That's the really important thing, is having a vision for the sort of sound and what you want to do with it. And then the rest just sort of comes together. So I really hope you've all enjoyed this workshop tour. Ideally, you'd be here in person, and I hope you can visit sometime. I love having visitors, but I hope this has just been fun and showed some insight into what I'm doing. And again, feel free to reach out to me if you'd ever like to visit or if you have any questions. And keep exploring the beautiful world of guitar music. We're all connected in this family. We all have this common love. And I have so much respect for all the guitarists out there and guitar makers that are just putting beauty into the world. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to some questions and answers now. All questions are good questions. Some of you might be just devotees of the guitar who don't play. Some of you are advanced players. Most of are idiots when it comes to this stuff. So dumbbell questions would be good for the whole group. I'll start with a dumbbell question. One of the common things, Steve, that people ask about, and in your instruments, how do you think these come out? Obviously, this changes. As you said, you do so many variables, but generally speaking, contrasting cedar, so a great piece of cedar and a great piece of German spruce. How would you, as a general thing, depending on what people are looking for, how would you generally classify those?
Let's see. Well, I think of spruce as having inherently a clear sound to it. So you can find pieces of spruce that are more flexible, and you can get a warmer, sweeter sound by lowering the braces for it. But it tends to have a more articulate sound. And this is with my current bracing system, which it's different for every luthier. They can do different things with it. So, but like some luthiers would say, maybe say the opposite. So it's really a matter of what you do with it. But for me, I think cedar can be a little bit more open, punchier sound right off the bat. And spruce takes a little longer to wake up, to play in, to open up. But once it does, it can have a very sweet sound. What's best is if someone can actually visit the workshop and just try them both and feel that, experience them. But lately, I was going through different chapters. I was really into spruce for a while, and now some of the latest cedar ones, maybe it's because it's this new pattern that I'm using, which is sort of two fan brace systems, like 5 brace fans, interlocked. So you get a traditional voice, but it's very, it's also very even. And I've been really liking that with the cedar. So it's best for people to try them out or listen to recordings. I've got a YouTube playlist of about like 150 videos of people playing on my guitars. And then people can go through and say, ooh, I really like that sound, and I'll show them Sergio's, video and so they can say, ooh, wow, and of course you got to be a genius player to get that sweet sound out. But it really helps having videos. And that's one of the things I'm doing right now to try to turn this time of an obstacle into an opportunity is get set up for making better videos right in my workshop, where there's some fantastic videos being made from GSI and Sickis and all these dealers. So I'm like, well, I should be offering that. It's a way of helping out the players that come here. It's fun for me. It's a win-win. So that's my sort of winter project, is getting a nice video set up here. But actually, honestly, in the back of my mind right now, I'm thinking about the next guitar for Sergio. But talking with him for a moment, now I'm like, ooh, I can't wait. So right in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'd love to hear a little bit at some point from Sergio, either today or just about what he envisions, what he dreams of in the sound, the feel, because I think I've grown a lot as a maker in the last couple of years. I think having kids and just going through the journey of life and even hard experiences, like what's been going on lately, you grow, and then you can put that experience into your work. So I think now I'd be able to ask better questions and listen to him. I've always, whenever I'm around a good teacher or player like yourself and Sergio, I try to listen not only to the music but any little things they say. And so I'm really excited for actually this winter for digging in on another guitar for Sergio, because it's been a number of years. I've been busy raising, got 2 young kids, but now I'm starting to get some sleep again, and I'm like, I'd love to build for Sergio. So maybe we'll do spruce, but maybe I'll pair it with cedar bracing. So try to get that spruce, sort of sound that works so well for him, but try to add more just sweetness and roundness. So.
Awesome. There's a question here. So I know you're starting to dip your toes into the, or maybe up to your ankle, or maybe up to your knee, into double top building. And the question is about the Nomex school that, Gernot Wagner and Matthias Dahmen started. And I'm not sure what Dahmen is doing now. I've heard he's gone to more maybe organic material in his bracing, but I really don't know what that means. Or Antonius Müller, who uses balsa sticks for the double top. But you want to talk a little bit about that and your experience and your experimentation there?
Well, it's thanks to you, Tom. And I believe that, teamwork makes the dream work. We're all connected. And if you collaborate with people, you come up, you just get more satisfaction, you get farther ahead in the game of life. So in the past, I've built single tops, and I've been pleased with them. But then I've heard some nice sounding double tops, and then I've heard from the feedback. I try to listen to the players. A lot of the young players, the double tops can give a lot of projection. And so rather than saying, if I ever say no to anything, and I'm like, wait, why are you saying no? They're like, why not try it? So I thought, let's try it. And hearing that a lot of the top talent that you've attracted, they like double tops, and a lot of people playing in competitions want them. And so I thought, hey, why not? Why don't I give it a try? Well, what's to lose? Why not? So it's thanks to you, Tom, for encouraging me to just sort of, whether you meant to or not, but be like, hey, grow as a maker, try new things. Even if I end up going back to just doing all single tops for whatever reason, I'll probably have learned a bit along that way by trying that sort of tangential path. So I built one, and actually, I really liked it. It was sort of amazing to string it up, because I'm so used to stringing up a guitar and expecting, I'm like, okay, this should have this. It'll have this sort of bass and this sort of treble. With the double top, I was like, for once, I actually really don't know exactly what this is going to sound like. I mean, I know some of the principles, like I weigh everything and I test the flexibility in the Helmholtz. But what I noticed was a lot of sustain that throughout the whole treble string. And I do that, that test where, you mute the strings and you go up. And my guitars in the past, the single tops, I try to bring out a singing character. And so that when, especially in the high E string, the melody is like a voice singing. And so that's the first thing I check. I always check the 12th fret on the high E. That's like my sort of, is it round? Is it sweet? Does it sing? And on the double top, I was like, wow, yeah. And it's sustaining forever. So I was doing the count, and I was like, 1, 2, 3. And I was like, whoa. And I worked the way down, and then check that C sharp and all those sort of tricky spots. And I was sort of laughing to myself that I was like, geez, this is, and that was with, now I'm trying different combinations of cedar with spruce. There was cedar and cedar. I haven't done spruce with spruce yet, because that doesn't quite make sense to me. I think if you're doing spruce on the outside, which makes some sense because it's a little harder to offer a little bit more protection from the guitar as well than do cedar on the inside. I've had Nomex, a piece of Nomex kicking around in the workshop for just a long time, 15 years or so. Just because I'm curious when you hear about, these things going on out there, like, I want to see the material. I just want to have it around. And I do like how it's a form of biomimicry, where if you look at a wasp nest, it's got the honeycomb, or a bee's nest, you'll see the honeycomb. So I'm always curious about anything with biomimicry, and it is a very efficient shape. but my vibe's always been, keep it as natural as possible. And so when I went to it, I thought, well, balsa wood. I've used balsa in bracing before. I built a guitar 20 years ago or so for Grisha Goryachev, a flamenco player, where I wanted something really fast and light. So I used balsa in the bracing. And it was actually laminated. It was Brazilian rosewood with balsa on either side of the brace, and really fast, but it didn't actually have the sustain that I wanted. So I sort of abandoned that. I said, I don't know, maybe balsa. Anybody who gets into wood eventually gets interested in balsa wood because it's the lightest wood. That's why you'll see it in everything from model airplanes to, I guess Kentucky, that was just out of chance. But so I'm using balsa wood inside and trying to do my own pattern, because I feel like part of my philosophy is, for the first 50 guitars I built, study the masters of the past. And that's that sort of graduate school that I said. For 50, I'll just study Simplicio, Boucher, Rodriguez, Romanios, Torres, Santos Hernandez, try to understand their recipes. But then at 50, as soon as I crossed over, then I was like, all right, now I want to do my own thing. I've just sort of, like if you're going to paint, learn how to paint realistically. It's a lot harder. Even if you want to end up doing abstract, still get your chops really tight. So now I'm exploring the double top, and the feedback's been really good. The last email I got from somebody who just got one said, what is going on? There's something magical going on in this guitar. So the adhesives, that's a big thing for me, that I usually use fish glue and high glue. And for the double top, I'm doing a balsa pattern. I'm trying to not copy anyone, so I almost don't want to know too much about what some amazing makers such as Antonius Müller are doing. I sort of want to do my own thing, because I just feel like I never want to copy. Everyone should be contributing their own sort of take on it. But I'm using a German aviation grade epoxy that pretty much becomes like glass. And maybe that's actually a significant part of it's becoming a brace in the way, that adhesive. I'm hesitant to use something that's, I think, polyurethane glues that are used a lot, because I don't know, maybe my vibe is saying that's not the sound I envision. I just love everything in the guitar being as natural as possible. But we'll see. I've got 2 more coming up in the next month, one of which is going out to Andrea Roberto as the prize guitar from last year. And that's a spruce double top. So I can't wait to hear what the feedback is from your end. You've got such an excellent ear and such top-notch players that are studying there and coming in and out. So I'm hoping that together, we could, I don't know, maybe make some new contributions to the design. I'm bracing it differently, and I'm surprised to be as excited. And I'm glad that through this collaboration of us working together, you're saying, wow, these double tops are kick-ass guitars, and now I'm trying it, and we'll see how things go. I'm also really excited about the single tops though as well, especially with this treatment that I've done, that which I sort of paint on. It's sort of amazing, the sound that I think that's really influencing it. I've done shellac on the insides of my guitars for quite a while, because I want these guitars to travel well. So that when people are on the road, like Sergio's in the desert and then he can be in Brazil, I want to seal the inside so any humidity changes happen slower. So my goal as a maker is not only try to have a guitar that it's a fun sound for the person to experience and comfortable for their hands, but also it can be reliable on the road for a travel schedule, and there won't be worries about the guitar. It'll be more just when the person's playing it, just relax, enjoy the music, and not be worrying about how the guitar is doing.
That's great. We're going to take, excuse me, we're going to take a little break and let you think of some more questions. And we're going to listen to a video of another of Steve's guitars. This is Annabelle Montesinos playing Preludio, the number 5 Prelude by Heitor Villa-Lobos. Wow, that was just great. Terrific, huh?
Annabelle is, it takes me away, and I feel like sometimes guitarists can just cast that spell, and something probably happens with your brain wavelengths that we can't look at because we're not in an MRI, but it just puts a little spell. And what I'm trying to think of when I build the guitars, be like, make it a little bit easier for those guitarists to just fall into that trance with the music and take it to another level. But Annabelle is sort of like an angel for me as well in the past year, where it's just been a crazy year. And when you've got people out there, making music, and you hear the videos, it's just like, it's restorative. And so when I heard her play the Villa Lobos, I was like, wow, one of my hobbies is hunting for pieces of music that haven't been arranged for guitar yet. And it's just something that can work in while I'm in the workshop. I'm always listening to music on YouTube. It could be Ravel, it could be Tame Impala, it could. So what I searched for was Villa Lobos pieces that haven't been arranged yet. And I found some offbeat piano pieces, and I'd probably butcher the name of them, but it's Un Mer en Chou, and a short piano piece. And then it's in E flat. Maybe some people had seen all the flats and are like, oh, good, look at that. But then I was like, well, I wonder if this could work for guitar, because I love the melody. And then I printed out the music, and I said, wow, let's try arranging it a little bit. And so then, but I thought of Annabelle with that because she's so good with Villa Lobos. And I made a rough arrangement and sent it to her, and she polished it up. And now she's added it to her concert lineup, which is just such a thrill for me to have this little hobby of like looking, and it's sort of like the most friendly form of hunting, where you're like, oh, let's hunt for just a beautiful piece of music that maybe you could send to a musician and then they could do it justice. So maybe if Anna could put on the Annabelle playing the Un Mer en Chou, which I don't know how that translates exactly, maybe a flowing tide, I think, or something. But it's only 2 minutes, and I thought it might be fun to have that as part of the tour.
So now we've found the video, and by the way, I want to do a shout out to Anna Irodake, who's worked unbelievably hard in the background, working with our guests, putting out the publicity, arranging this stuff. Steve's giving me a bunch of credit. Frankly, Anna and Misael have worked overtime to make this work for us. So I really want to thank them for their extraordinary work. It's crazy how much they do and how things function because of them. So I think we need to all say bravo to Anna and bravo to Misael, who are both, by the way, absolutely extraordinary guitarists. So this piece by Villa Lobos we found, and we're going to hear the piece that Annabelle will play for us now. That's great. That, by the way, means, yeah, it's funny, Steve, because you're going to love this. Where Steve lives, his workshop looks out to kind of a tidal bay, right? Isn't that what you call that?
Yep, I'm looking out at the water right now. Yeah.
So what that piece means in Portuguese, it means the tide has come in.
The tide is going neat.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, or the tide is filled. It's like filled the pond you look at there while you're working. There's a question here from Julia Pernet. She would like you to talk a little bit about building steel string guitars. I know you built some for yourself that are quite. Do you have one of them in your shop you can show us?
Yeah, I'll get one right here. So here's one of them, and this one, having kids is just, it's just what an amazing experience it is. It just opens up this whole other dimension. And when I had my son, Prem, who's now 8, I thought, well, I want to be able to sing him songs in steel string guitar, which is how it sort of started for me, finding my mom's old Martin. They're great to sing along with. That it's got the sustain that you can just play a chord and it's ringing. So I had so much love from when you have a kid, and it's so surreal. You just feel your heart and your mind, everything just sort of grow in a way. And I was like, well, maybe I should try to take some of that love that I feel and put it into the thing that I do, build guitars. So I did a series of steel string guitars for my kids, for the family, for family use, and it's just a sort of adventure. I tried to make it a diary of my life. So here's some flamed walnut, and this I got on a road trip in Vermont, where we've got this wonderful book. It's called The Waterfalls of New England. And it takes us on these sort of adventures where we go and look for new waterfalls. So we were in Vermont, and I saw a sign for a wood store, and I was like, ooh, we got to check that out. So I got some walnut, and it's got this beautiful figure. And then I paired it with some Swiss spruce, so which I really love, this lunar harvested spruce. And I had gone there to meet the family and hand selected, and I remember this one. And then this is koa from Hawaii around the edges from visiting. Angel Romero has this place. It's really beautiful. It's hard to see it on the computer. And then for the rosette, I used mussel shells from beachcombing and snorkeling. That's one way that I take care of myself. And this is an age where everybody's trying to be like, got to take care of yourself. You got to treat yourself. And something that I've always done is going swimming. When you snorkel and you dive under the water, for me, it's just the silence of you're just gone into a whole nother world. And I find it so calming. And the visibility is quite good here, and you can find beautiful shells. So what I would do is snorkel and find these mussel shells that then I cut into a sort of wave pattern. And so And then I sculpted everything in just sort of new ways. I put like a little sort of wave motif here, and use some of this neck stock that I just got, actually 20 more of these. I've been doing wood shopping therapy this past week. I was a little stressed. I was like, oh, I gotta go buy some wood, and then I feel better. So yeah, the steel strings, it's been a lot of fun. I ended up doing, this was sort of a portrait of water in a way that, I was using mussel shells, and it's this small body guitar. It's perfect for Prem to start off with. And I even did like a sort of mermaid motif. Why not? It's for the family, to just do anything, have fun. And then I built one with this sort of fire theme and air and earth. And so it was one of those sort of side projects but you learn along the way from that. And that helped with the portrait guitar series, which has really been what I've been into the last couple years, because you just rethink every part of the guitar. So the steel strings, it's open. These are just for a personal journey. You can explore all sorts of aesthetics with them. And now that's helping me with the classicals, with these portrait guitars, which has really caught on, because people are like, wow, it's sort of neat having something made especially, for you to describe your soul.
Thank you very much, Steve. I have a quick question, and then we have one more video to close. So one of the things that really works, we all like to pick up a guitar and the difference between an old Ford pickup with power steering and good brakes, and you get in a modern guitar. A modern car is just like one finger and it does things, And your guitars really are easy to play. So what's the secret?
Well, let's see. I think a bunch of things add up. What I try to do is put a little bit of radius on the fingerboard. So if you look at a relaxed finger, it's got that little bit of curve. And you notice on steel string and electric guitars, they have curvature. So on the classical guitar, I've always tried to question. That's something that my mother growing up, she'd always say, well, just do what you love. My dad would say, be your own teacher. And I think with the two of them who are really formative, be your own teacher means like you say why a lot. So on a classical guitar, I'd say, well, why is it that way? And is it that way because it's better, or was it easier to do at that time and it just became standard? So on a flat fingerboard on a guitar, I think that you can make a guitar more comfortable by having just that little bit of curvature in the fretboard and the right frets. And that's a personal preference. So, with the low or high fret wire, sometimes I just look at the person's hand and I'm like, I think they'll like the lower one. And then often I try to ask them all the time and say, or some people like the larger one. So I'll try to match it to that specific person. But I use this Stuart McDonald 149 as my sort of standard, where I feel like that's just, it's not too high, it's not too low, so that if your fingernails, you won't, bottom out and feel like it's too low, but you're not like you're up so high, and that if you ever want to anchor down to the fretboard, it would be tension. So the fret wire, the curvature, and then the string height is really important as well. Obviously, I think the high E, especially if somebody's playing carbon strings, you can take them down quite a bit. So I pay a lot of attention to the string height and the curvature of the fingerboard as well. So having just a tiny bit of relief. So a vibrating string now has this little bit of arc to it. So I put just a little bit of relief, and it's actually different under the treble strings and under the bass strings. There's more relief because the bass strings are heavier. So you've got a little bit more curvature along the fretboard underneath the bass than the treble. So
great, thank you. Thank you. What measurements do you use at 12 for the high E and the low E? So how low do you go?
I think 2.7 millimeters is doable if the person, it depends how the person plays. And again, this is so nice with videos or with having them, because some people just have a heavier rest stroke and might be playing, a little bit more tasto, and then you'll have to have it higher. But 2.7 millimeters from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string is what I like on the high E. And then for the low E, again, it really depends on the style of that particular person, but around 3.5. I like to get it down a little lower than that if the person, is willing to play around some of the buzzes, which I think is the way to go. Have it a little bit lower, and then just know there are a couple spots where you got to go a little bit more ponticello or lighten up and change the angle of the string. But better to have it a little low and play around a buzz than just have it be high and uncomfortable. So.
Super. There's a question here, and you talked about the influence of Velasquez because you played a Velasquez, and I know how much you love those, and you found me a Velasquez, by the way, which is just, as you said, wow, what a great guitar. Velasquez, Jose Luis Puerta, who is here as one of our professors at the university from Puerto Rico, was a fabulous Puerto Rican guitar maker who lived in New York for some time. So maybe you talk really briefly, because we need to put on one more video, about the differences and maybe a little bit of the influences of Velasquez and your modern instruments.
Yes, well, Velasquez, very clear, refined, elegant sound in the Hauser tradition. If you look at it, 7 fans is what was in my Velasquez, and then the Hauser tradition is the Torres tradition. So it's sort of like the most affordable. You can't afford to have a Hauser, but for me, going to a guitar making school and having the Velasquez there, which could act as a reference point, so I can look and be like, oh, how did they do their linings or the back braces or just the bridge? The craftsmanship is really top notch. I mean, he was inspiring that way. So it was really pivotal in my sort of evolution as a builder that I happen to have a top notch quality guitar at the course that I could reference and just sort of go to.
Well, this has been just great. I put in the chat here. I hope you can all access the chat. Steve's guitars are, considering who he is and how they are surprisingly affordable. What is your wait list now, Steve, more or less?
It's around 1.5 years at the moment. Yeah.
Great. So I put the ordering thing there if anyone would be interested. You can see he's extremely approachable person and loves sharing his stuff. So you can always FaceTime or Zoom. You can't go visit these days, but at least that. And like I said, this has been great. We miss you out here on Sunday. If you go to our website or contact me, the finals of the competition, where one of our students, extraordinary as it is, will be winning a guitar that Steve will custom make to what they're interested in getting. We started with Sergio Assad. He, by the way, sends his regrets that he had to take care of something and he had to leave a while ago, not too long ago. But we're going to close with one of his compositions, played on one of Steve's guitar. This is a piece dedicated to our dear friend Julia Pernet, played by Misael Baraza-Diaz, who won this guitar in the Beeston competition a few years ago. You want to talk just quickly about this guitar? I know it's a spruce one made with Mexican rosewood, if I recall. He's from Mexico. Anything else quickly you want to say about it? 64 centimeters, I think, right?
65, I believe, for that one. 650, and I wanted fuerte. I wanted strong. I mean, hearing the same.
Yeah,
it's 640.
Yeah.
Oh, that one is 640. Okay, sorry. I wanted a strong sound for it because I've heard Misael play, and I really wanted something to keep up with his virtuosic strength and technique, and clean, clear, focused, and it's amazing hearing him play on it. And I thought this was so appropriate that Tucson has this amazing chemistry of having Julia and Marilyn, all these great students, and having the piece for Julia by Sergio, played by Misael. I thought this is just a brilliant way to just wrap it up. So sending love to all.
That's perfect. I'll just a quick anecdotal thing. Steve called me on Friday before the Sergio Assad and Odair Assad concert on Saturday night. And on that Saturday night, we were actually presenting the first movement autographed by Sergio to Julia as a big surprise. And Misael was in the back of the room and played it from the back of the hall. And Steve called me, Julia Pernet is so amazing. You should do something for her. I said, well, you're reading my thoughts. And I told him what we were doing. And he said, well, I want to make a picture frame so she can frame this thing. So he's going to custom make a frame for the autograph title page of this. So without further ado, this is Misael playing on a Steve Connor guitar, a bouquet for Julia composed by Serge Rosette. And thank you.
Thank you.
That was just terrific. So I'm going to put in the chat here the link to the Beeston competition, which Misa won that guitar a few years ago in. That's the semifinals, which we broadcast last night at 4 o'clock Mountain Standard Time on Sunday. If you check in there, you can watch the finals. It's going to be pretty amazing. There's really good players, all 5 of them, and it'll be wonderful music. You got a half hour between competitors to go have a glass of wine. You might have to have 2 bottles on hand. We have to have time for the stage to lose its, it's, the time we're in. So thanks again to Steve. This was really revealing. Great to see you again. We love your attitude. We're so proud that we have an association with such a wonderful and talented guy like yourself. Next week, as Steve mentioned, we will have Berta Rojas, who'll be talking about a number of things, but including Agustin Barrios. She's quite special. And then the last one of the fall will be David Russell doing a workshop on tremolo, which is going to be great. And then we'll lie dormant until somewhere around maybe the 3rd Friday in January. Then we'll have this for the whole spring semester. So I want to welcome quickly, by the way, Charles Mokotov, who Fred Fox, who our school is named for, who we lost recently at 104 years old, believe it or not. That was his uncle. What a small and wonderful world we live in. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you here same time next Friday.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.